Areva Martin. We appreciate both of you being here. Commissioner, let me start with you. You listened to this. What stood out to you most? And what, might I ask, one of the things I think is important to point out, these attorneys for the parents are adamant that the gun was locked up. They wanted to make that statement. They did so, which is contrary to some of the other reports that we were getting over the last 24 hours. So what stood out to you, Commissioner Ramsey?
Well, I mean, the defense attorneys are doing their job. Whether the gun was locked up, I mean, he had the gun. He used the gun in commission of the crime. So clearly the gun was not secured to a point where he would not have access to it. This is just the very beginning. More information will come out. That's the whole point of the trial. The prosecution will present additional evidence. Search warrants have been executed. I'm sure hard drives have been recovered. They've gone through social media posts. There's going to be a lot of evidence. And on the other side, as far as the parents go, I'm sure there'll be a lot of research into their social media, into their past, into all those kinds of things to determine whether or not at the time that this took place, did they reasonably have any knowledge that, you know, this is a potential school shooting scenario. I mean, they knew he had a gun. They saw the pictures that were depicted of what looked like it could have been some kind of mass shooting incident, yet they took no action and they didn't bring it to the attention of authorities. So I think they've got a case here. It'll be interesting to see how it unfolds during trial.
Areva, during the arraignment, attorneys for the Crumbleys say that they were absolutely going to turn themselves in, that they were not evading prosecution, that this was simply a matter of logistics, that they were scared, afraid for their safety, wanted to get their finances in order. The judge today didn't buy that, and I'm curious, what do you think they could have been doing that might convince a jury that they weren't simply evading prosecution?
Quite frankly, Boris, nothing that they can, I think, say or do or present to this court or to any court to suggest that they were not evading prosecution. The facts are pretty squarely suggestive of the fact that they were evading prosecution. The lawyer's argument at some point was really incomprehensible. The reality is they were wanted by the police. They needed to turn themselves in. They had every opportunity to do that. Taking money out of an ATM, driving 40 miles away from the courthouse are not things that would suggest that you're trying to submit yourself to law enforcement. They quite simply could have driven to this court. You know, they could have driven to any police station, any sheriff's station, and turn themselves in. Rather, they decided to get on the road, to take some kind of trip. And the lawyer's story has changed. Yesterday, we were hearing stories that they had left town because they were fearful for their lives and that they were on their way back to this city to turn themselves in. So the story was incomprehensible. The judge made the right call. If you evade arrest, you should have a bond set at the highest level that makes sense for the charges that have been made against you. And I think clearly these individuals are a flight risk. The judge saw that they were a flight risk and took the appropriate action.
We heard, as Athena had alluded to or pointed out, Jennifer Crumbley, when she was answering all of her questions every time for each of these victims and said, "I understand, I plead not guilty," sounded as though she was crying. Commissioner Ramsey, talk to us about, with all the information that's already out there and seeing them now for the first time, the attorneys obviously say they don't want to try this in the court of public opinion, but you're going to have, if this goes to trial, obviously, public people who will be sitting on a jury. Talk to us about the logistics of that based on what we know thus far and what we saw today.
Well, I mean, again, it's going to be interesting. This is a highly publicized case, so selection of a jury is going to certainly take some time to make sure that you don't have people that already have a bias against or for the parents one way or the other. And I'm sure that will take place and that'll happen, and they'll find a jury that'll be able to render a decision based on facts and evidence. But they're not going to be able to avoid the court of public opinion. I mean, that's the world that we live in now. It's going to be highly publicized. A lot of information is going to be put out there. Some will be accurate, some will not be accurate in terms of evidence and things of that nature. I don't know how you avoid that sort of thing, but certainly I could hear it in her voice as well. It sounded as if she's crying, but it's a little late for that. There are people who are crying over the deaths of their children right now, or the children laying in a hospital with gunshot wounds. I mean, those are the kinds of people that personally my empathy is with them, not with the parents right now.
Yeah, impossible to expect that a public is going to ignore a school shooting. Obviously, it dominates headlines and it rips through a community in unimaginable ways. And Areva, the thing that strikes me is that this is one of the only cases in which the parents of a school shooter have faced charges. Explain to us how rare that is and how difficult it might be to build a case against parents for the role that they played in this tragedy.
You're right, Boris. It's very rare. There are only about 4 cases that have been reported in the last 15 to 20 years or so where parents have been charged for kids getting access to a gun and then using that gun to shoot someone else. Charges are often very difficult. People believe that parents shouldn't be held responsible for the actions of their children. But the prosecutor in this case, during her press conference, I think laid out why this case is different and why, to the extent you're ever going to charge parents, this is the case to do so. She laid out those chilling text messages between the mother and her son, using the LOL, language and saying, don't worry, essentially, about searching your phone for ammunition, worry about getting caught. There's evidence of the mom posting herself on her own social media pages, seeming to be bragging about having bought this gun as a Christmas present for her son. The chilling notes that the teacher found on her son's desk, crying out for help. The parents being in the school with their son, knowing that they had purchased a gun about a week ago, knowing that he may have access to that gun and not revealing that information to the school, insisting that the son go back into the classroom when, again, knowing that their son was crying out for help. So the parents ignored all of the classic red flags that this was a young man in crisis. And when you think about what he's facing, he's been charged as an adult with murder charges, with terrorism charges. So he has the potential of going to jail for the rest of his life. And here are the parents, the adults in the room who are charged to, to be observant of the warning signs and to take action to protect a child. And now we're going to have the loss of this child, the shooter, and the lives of the 4 individuals that he killed and the kids who were injured. So this is a tragedy all around. But to the extent responsibility needs to be had, it needs to rest with these adults because they knew what was going on with their son and they failed to take action.
Areva Martin, Charles Ramsey, both of you, we are so grateful for the two of you and for the intelligence and the knowledge that you bring to this case. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you both. Yeah. Before we go to break, we want to take a quick moment to remember those who lost their lives and show you their faces. These are the students that were killed at Oxford High School. Tate Meir, 16 years old. Madison Baldwin, 17 years old.
Hannah St. Juliana was 14 years old, and Justin Schilling was 17 years old. And our thoughts are absolutely with